this video, we are going to create an application using Raspberry Pi's uh, GPIO pins, an application of input and output pins with GPIOs of Raspberry Pi. So we can see we are here in the environment of the Raspberry Pi, which is the desktop, and we can access it by using the VNC viewer, which it we can access the monitor of the Raspberry Pi remotely and without the need of external mouse and keyboard. For this one, so the code is being typed in the uh, Tony Pi, which we can see here. The application menu programming is this the Tony Python IDE. So we can use this IDE to program our Raspberry Pi. As we can see, we use the version of Python which is 3.7.3. So this is the code that we are going to use. So the goal of this application is to detect if the object is near or is near to the sensor. So we are going to use an infrared sensor for this one. So for this, for the first two lines, we import the library, which is the rpi.gpio and the time. So for the rpi.gpio, we set it as GPIO. So we import all the necessary the functions in able to declare our pin and how we manipulate those pins or to set it as an output or an input, since it is a general purpose input output pins, hence called it as GPIO. So we have two libraries here, which is from the previous one is the GPIO0, and this one is the rpi.gpio. So we can both use libraries, but for this one we will use the rpi.gpio. Then we will import the time for the timing purposes. So we GPIO that set warnings to false, so to avoid errors, or to avoid detecting errors and to make the program run smoothly. So for the GPIO set mode, GPIO.bcm, it means that we set the numbering of the pins based on how this Raspberry Pi detected it. So if we are going to check the GPIO pins, we can click the terminal. We can click the terminal, and as we can see, we will put the command we will put a command here. So we can see, if we open the terminal and put the pin out, so we can it will detect the pin out of the Raspberry Pi. So this is the current pin out that we are going to use. So we will check that later for the reference into the circuit. So there are two types of pin out, which is the BCM based on the pin out by the SoC or system on chip or the CPU, and the board, which is how the pins are being labeled on the board. So now for this one, we set up the pins 2, 3, and 14. So for pins 2 and 3, it is the output pins, while pin 14 is the input pin where we put the signal pin of the infrared sensor. For pin 2, it is the uh, a red LED, and the pin 3 is the green LED. So this is the loop where the program we will put the program itself that will run indefinitely. So uh, if GPIO input 14 is equal to true, or if there is an input detected on pin 14, the red LED will light up, which is equal to true, GPIO.output to true, and but the pin 3 will be off, or the LED on pin 3 will be off, or else if the input 14 is false or there is no input detected, the pin 3 will be on, but the red LED will be off. So we will try to run this code to test it out. So by clicking the run current script, as we can see, the code is running already. And with the guide, by using the terminal and type pin out, so the pins to the LED are connected here, pin 3 and pin 5, while the input is connected to pin 14, and to power the the LEDs, or the circuit itself, or the infrared sensor itself, it is connected to 5 volts and to the ground. So as we can see, the code is running. So the green LED is connected to pin 2, the GPIO2, and the red LED is connected to GPIO3, and the infrared sensor, which is the signals of the sensor, is, or the signal pin is connected to pin 14. So, and the ground is connected to ground, and we connect it to the ground for the LEDs, and the VCC is connected to 5 volts. So if we test it out, so these sensors are the IR LED and the IR receiver. So if we put a finger it, as we can see, the red LED is lit up since it detected my finger. So when I remove it, it turned back to green. So let's try it again. So this is the red LED. So this is the green LED. So we can use Raspberry Pi for our simple projects like this. So the only difference with Raspberry Pi and Arduino is that Raspberry Pi is a single board computer, so we can see its monitor, its operating system, and we can program like this type of projects like we do on Arduino. But in Arduino, uh, it is a microcontroller. There is no operating system needed, but it requires an IDE installed in our computer. And the difference of those two is that Raspberry Pi has only digital pins, while Arduino has analog pins and digital pins. So let's try the circuit once more. So if my finger is detect on the sensor, it will turn red, and when it's not, it turn green. Hope you like this video, and see you again next time.